The 3-2 loss to Buffalo. There was a lot of talk, obviously, about the style of game and the level of play that we saw against Buffalo. It was a different sort of game here tonight against Philadelphia, but same sort of result in terms of not being able to get the win.
Yeah, and the Winnipeg Jets came out flying, I thought, in the first period. I mean, yes, they played the Flyers. That was not an intentional play on words, but they came out and played quite well. Had 16 shots in the opening 20 minutes, and you're thinking, okay, like they're playing with pace, they're getting pucks to the net, all those things that they wanted to do coming in, but Carter Hart was sensational in that opening period, and Connor Hellebuck as well, and the Winnipeg Jets net was playing well as well, and then ultimately it just kind of starts to go the way of the Flyers. Jets start to get a little bit frustrated because things aren't going for them, and once again the second period created a little bit of separation in this one, and then the Flyers able to get two in the final period to really put it away. But a frustrating night for sure for the Winnipeg Jets, who did some good things, but just it seemed any time they made a mistake, it was in the back of the net.
Yeah, absolutely. This one will be a very frustrating loss for the Jets, and you could see some of their frustration as well for it. Throughout this postgame show, we will obviously take you inside the Jets dressing room, and we are waiting shortly to hear from Carson Kuhlman, who will be joining us as well for it. But this is a game. I mean, this is now 3 consecutive losses for the Winnipeg Jets, the second time this season for it, and okay, we're going to continue that in just a moment, but we do know that we have Carson downstairs ready to join us. Carson, you're on with Sara right now. Thanks so much for doing this. Or it obviously a very frustrating loss. Right? What for this group was the most frustrating part about this evening?
Yeah, you said it. Frustrating, definitely. I think it's kind of been that way the last couple losses here. I think the frustrating part is we know how good of a team we can be when everybody's going and helping each other out. So I think that's what hurts us the most here.
One of the things that Rick Bowness had spoken about a lot was about wanting to play with pace, wanting to get more shots on net, and you certainly did that in comparison to what we saw in the Buffalo game. But did you feel as if it was a lack of puck luck? Was it the quality of shots? What was it tonight?
I thought we got away from it a little bit there, but like you said, that's one of the basics of our team is being a hard forechecking team and getting pucks to the net and doing that more effectively. And I think if we just keep doing that, pucks are going to go in. Obviously, he's a good goalie. There's a lot of good goalies in this league, but pucks are definitely going to go in, and we've seen that.
When you look at the way this team goes into the third period, you're down by 2 for it. In that second intermission, can you just describe for us what it's like in a game like this in the room? I mean, is there a lot of talking going on? Is it fairly quiet? What's the atmosphere like?
Yeah, we got a lot of great leaders, a lot of guys that have played a long time in this league. So obviously hearing from those guys in between periods like that, and then you want to come out and play for one another there in the third. Regardless of the results, you want to play just hard, and hopefully a few go in and you make a comeback. But obviously that wasn't the case tonight.
When you look at one more game before the break, St. Louis is in town Monday. In your mind, it's a day off, I know, for the group tomorrow. What's going to be the key to being able to turn this around in that game?
Yeah, it's huge finishing out the right way before having a little away time and a little break. I think we got nothing to save it for. So I think we're going to get back to the way that we know we can play, and the guys in the locker room know we can play. So we just gotta do it for one more before having a little away time.
Thanks so much for the time, Carson. Really appreciate you coming out to join us.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. I mean, you listen to him there and say, this is a group that obviously we know that when they had won 8 of 9 before they went on this slide, but they have lost 5 of 7 now. They did put more pucks towards the net.
Yeah.
They had 40 shots tonight. I mean, Carter Hart was the first star.
For a reason.
And rightfully so.
Yeah.
He had a couple of posts too for it. But in your mind, where is that starting point for them and on Monday in order to get things back on track?
Honestly, it's sticking with it. Their pace was good in that first period, and I was putting some numbers together prior to the game, and no team in the NHL has played more games than the Winnipeg Jets since December 2nd. So certainly, that fatigue is going to pile on each other. They're not going to use that as an excuse, as we've said. It always seems they play the St. Louis Blues really well. St. Louis also a team that's struggling, and they're going to be coming in here. So it's going to be 2 teams that are, they're kind of both up against it. They're wanting to get things going the right way. And I remember something Blake Wheeler said a few years ago, and it was when the Jets were also going through a little bit of an offensive, I don't want to say slump, but a skid we'll go with. And he said, any time that we're talking about this team and scoring goals being our biggest problem, I'm not worried. And the reason for that is this is a team that can score. We know that. Yes, over this stretch they've lost 5 of 7, and in those 5 losses, they've got 5 goals. Certainly a problem. But like Carson Kuhlman said there, they're going to start to go. They hit a couple of bars tonight that didn't go, a couple of bouncing pucks in front that didn't go in. Saku Manalainen had one poked off of his stick, shorthanded, that would have given the Jets a 1-0 lead shortly before Philadelphia's goal. Those things are going to turn around. You just have to keep with your game, keep that pace up, keep getting pucks to the net.
You mentioned, so let's a little bit. I think that we've got the shots that went off the bars where they do not have puck luck a moment.
Right.
And I mean, look, that's not in a way that there were some issues that this team had for it. I mean, that third goal by Tippett was a breakaway, but they had opportunities. But this one where Rick Bowness also shuffling the lines tonight, shuffling deep pairings, anything to try to get them going.
Yeah, and this was Carson Kuhlman, who we just talked to. I mean, the first one goes off of Carter Hart's mask, comes back out into the slot, and that backhand chance. Actually, we thought it went in initially. I thought it was a goal, and then shortly after that, they get a face-off win on the strong side for Adam Lowry. That puck comes back to the point. Sandberg lets it go. Lowry gets the deflection off the bar. Like, it literally could have went from 2-0 to 2-2 in a matter of about a minute and a half after a Rick Bowness timeout. You mentioned the lineup change. They shuffled the forwards quite a bit, quite significantly in the third period. Kuhlman getting the bump up to play with Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele. I thought he was quite good tonight. I thought Morgan Barron was good tonight. But ultimately, I mean, individual efforts are what they are, and ultimately everybody in that room wants to get a win on the board, and obviously it didn't happen tonight.
Yeah, we know that one of the things that's been talked about is getting more shots to the net. 14 shots from the blue line tonight for it. Nikolai Ehlers, Mark Scheifele, both with 5 shots apiece for it. All right, let's head into we're going to keep going with that in a second, but first we're going to head into the dressing room and hear from Adam Lowry.
From the group tonight?
I'm not going to throw us under the bus. I think we haven't loved our last few games, and we've got one left going into the break, so obviously look for a response. The execution hasn't been there the last 2 games at home especially, so it's one of those things. Use tomorrow to rest, watch some shifts and see where we can improve. There's a lot of areas, and obviously it's frustrating right now. It feels like the sky's falling a bit, but we're still in a good spot, and we can win this game against St. Louis on Monday. And going into the break, you use those rest days and come back really refreshed. So obviously we're disappointed with the effort. We're disappointed with the outcome. 3 games in a row that we've kind of let slip away. So you're going to want to stop this slide as soon as we can.
First period tonight looked like you guys had a lot of jumps, 16 shots, which is almost as many you had the whole game. Did you feel like maybe because you didn't get any reward for that maybe things tailed off in the second and third?
Maybe a little bit. I think, the first period, it was a fairly even period. I don't think either team kind of controlled the play. There was chances at both ends, and for whatever reason, we came out in the second. We were flat, and they jumped on us. We made some mistakes and kind of shot ourselves in the foot. And before we know it, it's 2-0. Then I think there was some push, and we had some chances in the second, and unfortunately we couldn't convert. And then obviously in the third, that's a disappointing effort. You're down 2-0. You have an opportunity to come back in the game, and we didn't really sustain much. We didn't really generate a whole lot. So that's on us. We kind of leave our goalie out to dry, and it's an unfortunate situation for Ellie to have to be pulled.
We talked a lot yesterday about getting back to pace. How do you think you guys did in that regard in terms of your speed game?
We want to get back to pace. I think we tried to in practice, but obviously I think it's the execution. It's the little details. You're making these 10-foot passes, coming out of the zone clean, and sometimes it feels you miss one pass and then you're chasing the game a little bit, and you're not able to dictate the play. You feel like you're a step off, and when you're chasing, you look a little slower. You make them look better. So I think that's one of those things. Is it's tough to kind of get that pace, kind of use that speed when you're not executing small areas of the game.
Coming out of the timeout, it looked like that was maybe a couple of real pushback shifts from you. Was the ask just more emotion at that time?
Well, I think the message is, there's still a lot of time left in the game. You kind of just start building one shift after another. I think it felt a little dead in the building. It felt dead on the bench, and rightfully so. We're not really giving them any cheer about right now. So, you know, we were just trying to create some emotion, create a little momentum, get some pucks to the net, and, you know, just a little more connected out there. You know, I think for a little bit it was, you know, it looked a little better, but you know, ultimately it wasn't enough.
Adam, everything that you're describing, the details, execution, how much of that is perhaps attributable to mental fatigue, given how close you are to the All-Star break?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I think, you know, it has been a busy stretch. You know, obviously fatigue catches up to you physically and mentally, but you know, I don't think we want to use that as an excuse. You know, we're professional athletes. Our job is to come to the rink and give ourselves the best chance to win. You know, give ourselves the best chance away from the rink. You know, to rest or recover, to kind of get away from the game, so that when we're at the rink, we're mentally sharp. So, yeah, maybe a little bit, but obviously we can't just use that as a crutch. We got to find a way to fight through that. You know, Flyers we're going into the break tonight for them, so you know, they could have packed it in and they didn't. So it's going to be important we come out and we're ready to play on Monday.
Appreciate it.
One of the things I have always appreciated most about Adam Lowry is that whether things are going well or they are struggling the way that they are right now, he's very honest in his assessment. I think he doesn't try to paint everything as being rosy. He acknowledges the issues that they have. I mean, he said, you know, it feels a little bit like the sky is falling right now, which it obviously isn't, but you look at the standings, they are 3 points back of Dallas. You've got Colorado, who is winners today over St. Louis. They are 6 points back. They've been really making a push, and Minnesota is right now is tied in their game at once. We'll see. I mean, the standings the placement could change a little bit in terms of the third and fourth teams in the Central Division right now. But what is it when you listen to Adam? What is it that stood out to you most about what he said?
Just the fact, like you said, he's measured. Like he's very aware of the fact that, you know, the timeout was a point in the game where, yes, you could see Rick Bowness animated about it, and I mean, you would kind of expect it. And we've seen the last few games that, you know, Rick Bowness getting a little bit, he's trying to get a little bit of energy, I think, going.
He was very animated, I thought, during that.
Yeah, he's trying to get the group going a little bit, like Adam Lowry said. Get some, and you start building some shifts, and they come out after that timeout. And I thought this was probably one of the more insightful parts of it. Sometimes you think of a timeout and you see a coach going all over the place, and you think it's, you know, they're getting lashed into. Sometimes, yeah, maybe he's pointing out a couple of strategic things, but he's saying at the same time, look how much time's left. 7:06 in the second period, you're down 2-0. Not the end of the world, especially with a team that, yeah, you know, offense has been a little bit of a struggle, but this is also a team that can score. We saw against the Buffalo Sabres, they can score a couple of goals. Right, sure. So it's just a matter of, you know, there was an opportunity there. They get the good shifts coming out of that, and then ultimately the Flyers do pull away. But I think the message out of that one, that's probably the most insightful thing I got from Adam Lowry there, was it wasn't necessarily, you know, we were getting yelled at. It was, look, lots of time left. Let's start building a game here.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Winnipeg Jets, I mean, falling short in this one, being shut out for the second time this season 4-0 was the final, with the Philadelphia Flyers on top. Let's head back into the dressing room and hear from Brenden Dillon.
You know, a trap game per se, and we've talked about it. We know what the plan is, and we know how to be successful. And it's just, for whatever reason, you know, we're falling behind in games, and then it just seems to snowball. I mean, it's 0-0 at the end of the first, and you know, we're okay. We're in an okay spot, or whatever the score was. Sorry, but ultimately we just got to find a way to get out of this thing. We've got one game here that we've just got to push everything towards here going forward.
No magic potion, you say, and all that, but what helps at this time? Like, how do you find your way out of it? What are the steps you have to take?
Well, I think everybody's just got to play their identity, do what they do best. We can't have guys trying to do too much or step outside, you know, their game. That's why we've had such a successful season. You know, down a goal, up a goal, on the road, at home. We've been so good, and we've just gotten away from that a little bit. And it just seems if one shift goes bad, that the next shift, instead of us taking the game back, we're seeming to have, you know, playing our zone a little bit more, or puck gets turned over, or something happens, and we just got to find a way to stop that. We've talked about it. We've had enough meetings amongst us as players and coaches that we've just got to go there and do it, really.
I've heard guys, when I've heard guys say, like, at the end of a long shift, it's easier to make a mental mistake. You're playing 14 and 26. Does that play into that? Is it easier to make those mental mistakes that shoot yourselves in the foot?
Maybe a little bit. Everyone's going through these tough schedule, and we haven't had a lot of practice this year, but that's just kind of how the schedule is shooken out. We've all played, whether that's junior or college, a lot of games in a short amount of time, and for this season, we weren't using that as excuses earlier, and I think now that we've gone through this rough patch, this is where we really need to find ourselves and step our game up that much more, find a greasy way, whether that's a 1-0 game or a special teams just finding a way, whether that's power play or PK. We've just got to get a win here under our belt, and starts here on Monday.
Brenden, we heard the fans, unhappy fans in the building at various points throughout the game. What would you like to say to the fans to reassure them that this is just a temporary stretch and that this is not a true representation of what your team has been all season?
Well, we're not panicking in here. We know how good of a team we've got. We know the firepower we've got. We know when we commit to the black and white way of how to play and how to be successful, we're going to be okay. And we've still got a lot of games left, and I think our group too, we're finding out that they're going to be tougher and tougher games. Team is trying to get into the playoffs. Team is fighting for home ice. There's not going to be an easy night where we can just kind of throw our sticks out there and play. We're going to have to really up our game, and I think it'll be good to have a nice stretch here these last 31 games, towards the playoffs.
Thanks, Brenden.
Thanks, guys.
Another insightful player in Brenden Dillon, another insightful person, the head coach. Let's head into the Matt Frost Media Center and hear from Rick Bowness.
Rick, given the way that you lost on Thursday, is tonight worse?
Yes.
When you look at it because of the... And
is.
why is that? Is it the lack of response?
Listen,
overall?
this group knows how to win, but there's a price to pay to win in this league, and you have to work, and you have to compete, and you have to do it every night. And as the season progresses, it gets harder. And right now, it seems to you're seeing what we're seeing. As soon as there's a little adversity, this group, we haven't handled it. We handled it well early in the year. We're not handling it well right now. The difference makers, you can't even find them out there. So until we make that commitment again to play as a team and we want to win, this is what you get.
So you won't have a magic potion to fix that. Why do you feel that's been lost, though?
That's a question they have to ask themselves and their teammates. Like, where did it go, right? Where did it go? They know we've been successful all year. We're a good hockey team. But you have to work and you have to compete. And as soon as it gets tough, you can't change from that. Right now we're going through a spell where as soon as the adversity kicks in, we're going on our own program, which is the problem with all of last year. We thought we had corrected it. Now we got to correct it again, and we will.
Rick, you called the timeout shortly after the 2-0 goal because it looked like it was inevitably going to become 3-0 pretty quickly if you didn't. And then you do get a response. That very first shift might have been the best one of the game. Energy, compete, all that. But then it was short-lived. So is that part of the frustration that it's like they showed that they know how to respond, but then they didn't?
Well, it's what we've been talking about is that, okay, we have a good shift. The next lineup have a good shift. So Adam's line was the best line out there by far. We didn't have enough guys going to follow it up because we had some guys that clearly didn't want to play tonight. So you can't get momentum. You can get momentum when those guys go out there, but the next guys have to go out and have the same attitude, and we didn't.
You brought the full blender out in the third, and again, that's just speaks. You're trying to find something, I guess, anything that works at that point.
Yep.
Did you see anything?
We saw it from the guys we thought we'd see it from. We're disappointed that we didn't see it from the guys that we needed it from.
Going back to the timeout, was the ask at that time that you took it, was it just emotion? Did you just want to see fire a little bit at that point?
Well, I just wanted to settle things down. We kept passing them the puck and to settle this thing down and get some emotion into this game and get going north is what it was. Regardless of the score, it was clear we were on our heels. And You can't play in this league when you're on your heels. And I just try to let's get going north and get some passion, get some emotion back into this game. But again, when you have half the team not there tonight, you can't, like we needed that next the next line to get it going again. But we just didn't have enough guys going to do that.
You mentioned Adam Lowry being a strong player tonight. He gets promoted in the third. Is it fair to read into those lines that you had as, a guy like Blake Wheeler playing on the fourth line? Was he having a night you weren't too happy with?
There was a few guys that were having bad nights. It wasn't just Blake. It was a few. The difference makers weren't there tonight. It's the best way to put it.
And for one of the first times that I can remember, there were boos, especially during that power play.
I'm surprised there wasn't more boos.
I mean, yeah, I just...
I am.
Any thoughts? I heard a nice question earlier. Thoughts for the fans in terms of like assuring them? I'm going to use.
Listen, we're a good team. We're still fighting for first place, right? We've got to turn this around. Clearly, we've got to get that game on Monday night. We get the game on Monday night, we'll be okay. But regardless of the outcome of that game on Monday night, man, we need a 60-minute effort. It's all the fans want to see is a 60-minute effort. The wins and losses will take care of itself. If you take care of the effort and you take care of the process, that'll take care of itself. Right now, the process isn't good enough and the effort's not good enough, and that's all our fans want to see, so they're justified to boo us.
You'd said at the beginning of the year that when you've got a good team like the Jets that drops out of the playoffs like they did last year, it's important, psychologically to get back up into the playoffs and kind of have that be the one-off. I'm wondering, because I'm seeing what's happening to Vegas right now, and you guys are struggling a little bit. I'm wondering if you need to psychologically guard against what happened to this team last year, like when the times get low.
We've been dealing with that all year, and we're going to keep dealing with it, and we'll keep pushing. It's not like, we've been dealing with this all year. You guys don't see the stuff that we see. But I've been saying this all year. We got a lot of work ahead of us. Even though where we were, there's still a lot of work to do, and that doesn't mean on the ice.
Rick, we know you don't like to pull your goaltender. Was that kind of a mercy pull? Or
yeah, it was. That was enough. Don't embarrass you. You're clearly one of the best goalies in the league. Don't embarrass him. That was enough.
And will you go back to him Monday? Or?
Yes. Okay. He's our guy. All right, thanks.
Well, look at that. Oh, okay. Well, I asked Carson about what it was like in the second intermission and whether or not there was a lot of talking going on. Mm-hmm. Oh, to have been a fly in the wall when Rick Bowness went in there and spoke to them, given what his post-game comments were there. If you didn't hear them right there, I guarantee you're going to be able to hear them on all of these sports highlight shows, because look at it. Adversity, we haven't handled it well. Difference makers, you can't find them out there. You have to work, you have to compete. He referenced last year and some of the issues that this group had guys going on to their own program. This was certainly, those were very pointed, strong words from Rick tonight.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And one thing that I remember from training camp, and a lot of coaches are like this, he's not going to say anything there that the players haven't already heard, right? So that's one of the big things that the players really respect out of him. So now at this point, it's just, you have a frustrating loss. You're going through a frustrating time right now, as we saw in the game. And as he talked about there was some shuffle of the lineups. You're trying to do things, find things, but adversity is a tough thing, and every team, every season is slightly different. But that doesn't necessarily mean you don't have, whether it's memories from previous seasons or anything, where sometimes things don't go well, and you start to protect against that. And as soon as you start to do that, well, now you're on your heels instead of your toes. And as Rick Bowness always says, we have to play on our toes. We have to be on our toes. We have to be an aggressive team. And sometimes when you're not playing connected, you're not on your toes, you're not playing aggressive, those teams open up, you start slowing down a little bit, all of a sudden you're not the team that got yourselves into this top of the division, top of the Western Conference race. So certainly some pointed words that I'm sure the players have heard, and on Monday against St. Louis, they'll have a chance to respond.
Yeah, old habits die hard. We know that. He said that's something that they have been dealing with all season long. They will continue to, but the heart as well that this is, a good team. This is a talented team. They're still sitting second in the Central Division, and they'll right the ship. It's just a matter of how soon will it happen. You mentioned their chance, though. Their final chance before the All-Star and player break will happen on Monday. It is the third and final game of this homestand here. So
I mean, you look at those two previous results.
Yeah.
Certainly a team that the Winnipeg Jets play well and have played well against this season.
Yeah, the third of 4 meetings between this. Always love when it is a divisional battle. St. Louis mentioned, I mean, they fell to Colorado today. They've had their own struggles with it, but this could be the Winnipeg Jets need. They will certainly be looking for a response after these last couple of games. All right, that is it for us. It's certainly not the result that Jets fans were looking for here inside Canada Life Center or for those watching at home, but as mentioned, they will have the opportunity to try to redeem themselves on Monday against the Blues. 4-0 Philadelphia was the final in this one. We will see you all on Monday. Thanks so much for joining us on the Winnipeg Jets Postgame Show.